We've got 1.5, maybe 2 meters of swell at times. It's got the trousers to match its mouth. Behind me is the new Azimut Magellano 60. It's the newest and smallest boat in the range, but it still has all those familiar Magellano touch points, like designed by super yacht designer Ken Freivokh. A really voluminous interior that's packed with invention and the semi-planing dual mode hull, which it's going to need because there's about 2 meters of swell running out there, and that to me sounds like boat test weather. The price, they won't tell us, so that for now remains a mystery. But never mind, let's go out there and find some waves. Before we go and put it through its paces out at sea though, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and then you're notified every time we upload a new review. I'm Haines, welcome to YachtBuyer. We often get comments on our videos about testing boats in conditions that are too kind. Well, that's not the case today here off the coast of Italy. We've got 1.5, maybe 2 meters of swell at times. It's quite messy as well, proving quite a challenge for this Magellano 60 and its dual mode hull, as they call it. They've kept it quite simple when it comes to engine options. You have the MAN i6 730 horsepower, and they are meaty motors. From out here in the Flybridge, you can hear them, the exhaust bark a bit. You can tell that they're doing their work down there. But they have a really nice amount of power, very accessible. So we're doing 18 knots here, and you just need to give it a little bit of a nudge to get yourself out of a trough. You feel that hit, you're not completely detached from the driving experience. And actually the handling builds into that. This is not a boat for slaloming through a course at all. You set your course really and let the hull do the work, but if you do need to chuck a few turns in, the steering is really lovely and light. You run this big diameter wheel through your fingers, and actually she turns direction really quite nicely. And we've got 28 knots downwind today, which is pretty good going, to be honest. Nearly 30 knots on a boat that is generally designed to cruise at probably between sort of 18 and 24 knots if you're at speed, and then dropping down to sort of 8 to 10 if you want to go along in displacement mode. But I've been really impressed with how it's handled these conditions. It has got trim tabs. I haven't really felt the need to use them at all. And when I first started driving it downwind especially, I was overcorrecting a bit. Wasn't trusting the hull, but I've learned that if you just let the hull do its thing, find its way through the quest, through the waves, it irons us out really nicely. And we have got a seakeeper fitted. We've had it off most of the time when we're at speed because you're not really going to get the benefit from it. You feel it much more when the boat's stationary. So really it's just leaving it down to the hull to find its way through, and it's been great, certainly downwind. Now upwind, you can't carry quite as much speed. I found it's been more comfortable to drop down to about 15 knots. And actually there's not a huge amount of difference in range either. We've got 3,650 litre fuel capacity. At 15 knots you're looking at about 350 nautical miles, but you actually get a little bit more at that 18 to 20 knot speed. Tells you a bit about the efficiency of this semi-planing hull. It doesn't mind going a bit quicker. And you have got that nice wide cruising band. 30 knots nearly at the top end, and then, here we're doing 15, punching through it, but it punches through it really comfortably. It's not sending great big sheets of spray over me. It's got a very clean hull, this boat, but it's still a very dry ride, and it pushes through this swell into the teeth of it really well. I've been very impressed by how comfortably it's gone upwind. Even if you're heading bang on into it, it does make really nice progress. And I like the fact that you've got a tall windscreen, you're close to it, and they've got a little angled lip on the top as well to push the breeze over your head. So yeah, it's a well protected space this, considering you're up here on the Flybridge. What about the driving position? It's pretty good. The helm is a little bit bland. It's all digital, of course, twin MFDs, then the middle digital screen for your MAN engine information, and then an array of buttons for all the major functions down here. I could probably have the throttles a bit close to me. I'd probably put the autopilot up here on the dash, and then I could have the throttles down here. And yes, this seat slides, so I could get a bit closer, but for me that would just make the ergonomics a little bit sweeter. But I've got a cup holder down here, there's 2 more down there. I've got a great view of everything. Yes, it's touchscreen, but I've also got a remote control for the MFDs down here, so I don't have to move out of my seat if I don't want to. This is a very, very handsome looking boat, this Ken Freivokh design. It's really striking. It's always quite pleasing when it's got the trousers to match its mouth. But let's see what it's like when we move downstairs. I mentioned up there about the burbliness of the engines, and that's only really because you can hear the exhaust and they get a bit fruity when it's in conditions like this. Down here the engines melt away really nicely. It's almost like when you're on an airplane and the jets sort of melt back into the background. It's like that here, and at the cruising speed, that 18 knot cruising speed, you're in the late 60s decibel wise, which in conditions like this, where you're rolling around a bit and there's a bit of sea running under the hull, that's pretty impressive. And you are insulated from conditions like this up there on the Flybridge. Being down here, that's the real test, and I have to say it's just as impressive. You'd hear the squeaks, you'd hear any rattles, you'd feel the shudders from down here, and there's none of that. It is really solid and really smooth through the waves. The only noise you can really hear are the blinds clinking around in the background, but in terms of the structure and the timberwork and the interior, it all feels really solid, another piece. And this is a really good position. I love that you can stand. I'm a little bit too close to the helm, but I can always sit, and the helm seats are very comfortable, leather lined, fully adjustable in all directions. They've got nice footrests, but in conditions like this, I like the fact that I can stand with this, again, big wheel right here in front of me, easy reach of the throttles, great view of the dashboard, and really importantly, a fantastic view forward. Because I'm more in the middle of the boat, I haven't got the issue of any mullion here. If the helm was here, you might have that blind spot coming in. I haven't got that here. Yes, this person would have to move me out of the way if they want to get in and out, but actually I really like the way that this position is set up. The dash is pretty similar to upstairs as well, although you've got two digital engine screens up here, you've got your twin MFDs, and again an attractive run of buttons down here. And I'm a simple man, and I like a simple wiper button. It can get very complicated how to run the windscreen wipers on boats. Here you have a button for starboard, a button for port, a button to wash them. That's it. Simple stuff. That sort of stuff appeals to me. The only thing I'd like to see down here that it doesn't have is a side door. That would just make the boat a bit easier to run if there's only two of you on board, or if you're single-handed, give you a bit better natural ventilation here. Though I have to say they have got a window here, electric window, so you can ventilate, you can talk to crew. It's a great helm station, but a side door would be the icing on the top. And there are boats in this segment like the Absolute Navetta 58 that have IPS, so therefore you get joystick control, but you also get joystick control as standard here. But on this boat, rather than using pods, it's combining the shaft drives with the bow thruster. So you've got a side power proportional bow thruster, and of course if you just want to use it in the traditional way and use the twin throttles and the thruster, you can do that. But if you want to combine it all with a joystick function, then you have the Authentics joystick here, which does everything. So if you push to the side, it will use the shafts, and you can hear the bow thruster coming in to get the boat to move sideways. If you want to twist, you just twist the top, and it'll use, again, the bow thruster and the twin shafts to make the boat twist. And actually, it's, I don't know how well you can pick that up on the mic, but it reacts nice and quickly, and you do get nice true sideways movement. And of course you have fore and aft control as well. So once you're in the marina environment, if you want to forget about the throttles and the thruster, then you can just use the joystick. But of course you can always go back to the old school way if you want to. Let's start back here, shall we? Because this is where a lot of the innovation takes place on the Magellano 60. As standard, you have a hydraulic bathing platform. It's got a 500 kilogram weight capacity. You can get a sort of 3.3 metre tender on here with the passerelle. If you don't have the passerelle, you can have a slightly longer one, but yeah, that's the weight capacity, so decent tender on here. The only thing about the platform is that there isn't a step between the platform and the deck, so unless you only just have it in the water, you have quite a big step up to the platform. But there is a spot to put a bathing ladder in there, so it's easy to get out of the water when the platform is down. This is access here to the crew cabin. We're going to have a look at that at the end of the tour, so stick with me if you want to see where the crew sleep. And down here we have quite a useful locker, really. It pops out like this, and it's not all that deep, but it's very wide, so as you can see it's perfect for shore power cable, hose, ropes. You can put wet kit in there. It's in a really useful position right here on the bathing platform. And the passerelle is set quite a long way back, which means it has a long way to go to get to the quayside. And because you can't get to the steps when it's out, if this is any higher than it is now, you have a bit of a big step up onto it. But it's not too bad from here. You can step up and you're into the cockpit. You have your deck shower down here, and obviously this is your main mooring gear up here on the aft quarter. It's on a nice stainless steel base plate. You've got winches, fair leads, but if you need to cross spring, you've got pop-up cleats here, so you can do that. If you're in the Med like we are now and you want to cross spring, then you do that from here. But yeah, this is really nice, chunky stuff. And they've got rope bins as well, so you can tidy up all your lines once she's tied up. And really this is what's unique within the Azimut range about the Magellano layout. Having the cockpit arranged this way rather than having the table running across, it runs down the centreline. It's not the first time we've seen this, absolutely doing this as well, but it's such a good layout. I particularly like these end seats here when you're out at the water having lunch. You've got a lovely view because you've got this glass transom, you can hear the water lapping against the hull, and yeah, the all-round view for everybody is just much better having the seats orientated this way. Lovely solid wood table. Obviously this opens up for when you're dining. It's also on high-low mechanism, so you touch a button, it'll drop down to more of a coffee table light, and you can raise it up to this height if you're dining. And there is space this end to have a freestanding chair or two if you need more space for lunch. They've also built in some storage underneath this seat for a C-bob. You can even have a rack in there with a charger. So that's proper dedicated storage to have that toy that everyone wants these days in its own specific spot. Over on this side, they've just got a bit more rope storage here. Always quite useful to have somewhere where you can chuck your ropes away. And then both sides, you've got boarding gates. So if you're alongside a fuel key or your side two, you don't have to go to the bathing platform to get off. The other thing I should mention is this is one option here to have the bar. This window drops down, this top flips over, and you have a bar area created between the galley and the cockpit. But you can just have a storage unit here. If you're just going to have a lot of kit and you want to be able to squirrel that away, then you can have that instead. But I actually think this works really nicely, adds a bit of panache, gives you a bit more seating, just there's a bit more occasion about this layout, I think. Last thing to mention about this area, there is a shade that drops down from the overhang. It's partly for shade, it's partly for privacy. You might want it down today, for example, when you're really close to the quayside, it gives you a bit more privacy, but that just touch of a button drops down and connects there to that wooden balustrade there. Moving down the side decks, I really like the wooden detailing on board this boat. You can see it on the transom, and I really like this on both sides. It's a bit of a hallmark of the Magellano range. And you'll notice that back here, we've no guardrails. It doesn't feel unsafe because these are really nice and tall, these bulwarks, but it does mean that you've got to use fender straps back here, which is just a bit more of a faff than you just tying on a fender to a railing. But it's only a couple on both sides, because when you move forward, I hope you're getting a nice sense of the size of these side decks. They're really easy to walk down and feel very safe. You've got these railings here so you can tie off your fenders here. Obviously they've used the cleat, a midship's cleat here to tie this one off. And then once you get right forward, you've got some proper rails, and they're really nice and chunky. And yeah, this is a really well protected area and a great living space. Lots of clever design features going on here. Principally this seat area here, which is clearly set up as a bench at the moment, but you can flip it forward to turn it into an extended sun pad. The table flips open as well, so you've got a nice area to have some drinks and some snacks. You've got cup holders down there and pop-up lights, and you've got lockers on both sides as well. They're relatively deep, perfect for stuffing all the covers in for this area, which is exactly what the crew have done on this boat. And you've got some moulded trays here as well for loose ends, a couple more cup holders. And you can also shade this area. There's some poles that slot into the deck mounts, and you've got a sort of mesh canopy to give you a bit of protection over here when the sun is really bright. Right forward, deck gear, substantial deck gear actually, nice big cleats. You've got your fairleads built into the bulwarks here, the through anchor as well, and then it's not a segregated anchor locker, but you have got separate hatches. It's really deep. You can get most of the boat's fenders in there apart from the ball fenders. What I would like to see though is some way of keeping the hatches open. They just hinge open at the moment. If the boat's rolling, they could slam down, so a gas strut or something to pin them open will just make it a little bit safer. That's the main deck then. Let's head to the Flybridge. Up to the top deck then, and you can't help but notice another Magellano Q, which is this central mast. It really gives the boat a very distinctive profile. They've also used this to mount the control for the shower. Overhead shower here, which is quite a nice feature. I'm not entirely sure when you're going to use it, because if you've been for a swim, you're going to use the one down there. But if it gets a bit too hot up here, then hey, you've got it. It's quite a cool feature. And there are a few things you can do above it. You can just have a sort of smaller T-top. You can have a hydraulic bimini, but I think the most popular option will be what we've got here, which is this hardtop, which has got a built-in canvas sunroof, so it's the most flexible arrangement for sure. And it also gives you things like built-in lighting as well, and just a bit more protection up here from the elements. They use the mast wisely. They use it as somewhere to mount the wet bar, obviously, and this is well positioned. You lift up your lid and you've got your grill and your sink and everything, and it's between the two seating areas. And talking of the seating areas, there are a couple of options here. You can have it completely open. You can have this option here, sort of day bed, sunbathing space, or you can have a version of what we got in the cockpit. So you have, it's more low slung, but you have the same arrangement with the table along the centre line and some benches either side. Personally, I think this is the best Nice place to chill out, nice relaxing seating back here. You'll also notice the railings have all turned black up here, so you've got powder coated stainless steel. Azimut say they've done lots of testing, it doesn't get too hot in the hot weather, and it's pretty sunny here today, and it's true, they aren't getting too warm, and it's really nicely done, beautifully smooth, lovely welding as well. All the metalwork feels really top quality on board this boat. Now if we move forward, there is a little step to give us some headroom in the saloon below, something that takes a little while to get used to, but if you live with this boat for a while, you'll know that's there, and hopefully you won't catch your foot on it. And then obviously you have your main dinette here. This table is actually fixed. You've got some cup holders down there, and that's also where the button is for the sunroof. Opposite, this is the storage here, another really nicely finished unit, the sort of silver gel coat up top, but then you've got a bit of storage down below. And I like the fact that these aren't just, you know, flat panels. They've got these little rivets in here as well. It's a bit more interesting than it would be if it was just a plain fascia. And then this is quite smart, you've got a two-way backrest here. So this is obviously dining mode, but you can slide it back the other way, and then that's a nice place to stretch out. It gets a bit more sun obviously because it's not quite as covered by the hardtop, but also if it's not too bouncy, that would be quite a nice place to sit when the boat's going along. Of course the Navigator has also got their own fully adjustable seat, but if someone else wants to join the party, then they can sit there. That's the outside covered then, let's head inside. Let's open her up then. This door opens in the normal way and then pins against this one, and we have a little catch, and it opens up like this to give you a nice big entranceway into the main saloon. And we've got the aft galley arrangement that we're all getting very used to now. It's big though, it's a good size. Lots of countertop, you've got cooking over there, you've got your cooling space over here with a domestic size fridge and freezer. There's an optional wine fridge down here. There's even a nice handy little pull-out mini pantry down here, which I quite like, and then you've got some fiddled areas up there to put things like the TV controls, and things that might slide around can go over there. The finish in here is Alpi wood. You can't change that, but you can change the colours in here. So you want different colour carpet, upholstery, scatter cushions. There's all a bit more flexibility there, but it's a really interesting interior. It's not over the top bold, but it's different and interesting. There's lots of little things that you pick up on, like having the rattan down here and the backlighting. There's lovely curvature to all the edges. I really like the feel in here. It feels fresh and different. Black countertops, as you can see, and lots of lids to lift up. Twin sinks, storage there, same one over here. There's a lot of them, and there's not really anywhere obvious to put them when they're not in their place. So that could be a little bit annoying, but it does mean that when they're on, you've got a huge amount of counter space to use. Obviously it's induction cooking throughout, storage underneath here, dishwasher down here. Reasonable size for a 60-footer. I've seen smaller, I've seen bigger. That one is not too bad. And as I said, all your cooling spaces over there. There's an extractor fan under here as well for when you are cooking inside. Like upstairs, to create headroom down below, we have a step up into the main saloon here. And I love this space. I think they've done some really cool stuff here, especially the sort of floor to ceiling window effect you've got over here. You really get the effect when you sit down, and you're out at sea obviously it's much more attractive, but it's lovely, and you have the same effect as you do out there. You can sit close to the window, you're in touch with the water, and I just think this is a bit more informal, a bit more lounge-like than having everyone sat round on the same side. I really like how they've arranged this. It's very different for this sector. And like outside, the table goes up and down, it opens up, so if you want to dine inside you can make it bigger, and there is again space here in the middle for a freestanding chair if you want to sit more people around this area. I think it's really effective. I love the lighting as well, spotlights throughout, then you've got your feature lighting here above the dining table when you're having a drink at night, playing cards or something. Yeah, this is a really cool spot. Underneath here we have dedicated storage for the boat's crockery. That's all fiddle. You see you've got proper china here. It's all held in place really neatly. You've got another one down below with some more, and it shuts really nicely. And then over here you have controls for the TV. So the TV comes out from that unit over there, pops out the counter, and it will also spin as well. So if everyone's sitting around this side chilling out, then you can just turn the TV to angle it best so that everybody can see it. Really cool space this. I think they've done some great work up here. Let's see what they've done on the lower deck. It feels like the design, which was all done in-house by Azimut on the inside of the boat, really gets it to its stride down here. The cabins look and feel really lovely, and again, like upstairs, just really quite different to everything else that's on the market. This is the VIP, right forward here in the bow. Nice amount of headroom over my head. The door gobbles a bit of space when it's open, but with it closed, there's a decent amount of space here at the end of the bed. You've got hang locker on both sides, and you've got eye level storage as well, and a decent slice of hull window, which is good because you haven't got a hatch overhead. You've got an escape hatch, but there's no glass up there, so that is where your natural light is coming from. Really nice ensuite bathroom. There's access to that from inside the cabin and also through this door here, and it's opposite the twin cabin here on the starboard side. Again, this is a decent sized space. You've got a couple of good sized beds. You've got a nice floor to ceiling hang locker in there. Again, a good strip of hull window with an opening porthole. And there's a couple of options for that boat's bathroom. If you're familiar with the people in here, you may just hop over and use this bathroom. But if you want true privacy, you've actually got a day head amidships here just in front of the owner's cabin. Before we get there, I'll just point out that this is where the washer dryer is. That's a good size, and that's neatly located here between all the cabins. And then you have this day head here, and it's in a slightly strange space right back here away from the cabin that's going to use it most, but it's just a little walk down the hallway, and it's lovely once you're in. In fact, all the bathrooms on this boat are really impressive. Finished with this sort of marble effect Corian, really interesting bathroom ware, teak laid in the showers. Yeah, really nice. We'll save the best till last though when it comes to the bathrooms. And here we are then in midships in the full beam owner's suite. And yeah, it's lovely. The detailing is great. I really like the lamps. I like the use of mirrors. The lighting's great. Lots of different fabrics and tones and colours. Yeah, really cool space. And I like the fact that you've got the TV here mounted inside a mirror. So when the TV's not on, you can't even see it's there. You've got your built-in sound bar. But it's also very practical. We've got full hanging storage on both sides. You've got a bit more storage in this unit over here. There's a sofa over there so you can sit down and take shoes and socks off, etc. But what really impressed me about this cabin, I think, is the size of the bathroom. It is absolutely enormous for a boat of this size. Again, quality is great. Tecmar toilets. Look at this lovely mirror. The bathroom ware again really stands out. Storage is good, and just look at the size of that shower cubicle. Again, it's teak laid, teak bench, lovely recessed lighting here. As you can see, I'm 6 foot and I've got plenty of headroom here. You've not got a rain head shower, but you've got the shower here on a wand. Yeah, for a boat of this size, this is an impressively luxurious space. Let's check out the crew cabin. So access is here through this transom hatch. It's good to know you can open it with the tender in place. And then, yeah, you're straight down into the bathroom basically. You know, on a 60-footer, it's not going to be enormous. There's a single berth in here. It is separated off from the bathroom with a door, so you're not going to soak the floor in there if you do have a shower. And actually, because the deck drops down a bit, headroom down by the bed is okay. There's a hang locker at the end. As you can see, there's enough space in here to have a shower if you need to. Toilets down here as well. Nice big porthole as well, so you get some natural ventilation. Obviously air conditioned in here as well, but you still get, you know, Tecmar toilet and, you know, reasonably nice fittings down here. Obviously not quite to the standards of the main cabin, but again, for a boat of this size, it's pretty good. Let's have a look at the engine room. Engine room access is through a hatch in the cockpit. You're down the ladder and then you're here into the engine space. As you can see, there isn't standing headroom. It's a bit of a case of stooping over down here, but there's a reasonable amount of space between the engines. They're quite big blocks, these MAN i6s. Certainly the things you need to check day to day are all pretty easy to get to, like the water strainers, the dipsticks. You've got the fuel filters mounted behind the engines. You've got twin filters as well, so you can change between them. You've got some big components in here as well, of course. You've got a generator and you've got the Seakeeper below. We've got a Seakeeper 9. You can upgrade to a Seakeeper 18. The 9 did a pretty good job today in what were quite tough conditions, but if you're going to spend a lot of time on anchor, especially in areas that are going to suffer a lot of swell, you're probably going to want the larger gyro. I think they've done a really good job with the design of this boat. I think it looks really, really classy, really different as well. Not just the way it's styled, but also the use of colours. You know, the fact you've got the green hull colour, you've got the wooden inserts. It really does look quite striking out on the water. And the other thing it does is it hides its volume really well. This sort of pseudo-trawler type boat can often look a bit top heavy and a bit balloonish. None of that here. I think this is a really strong, muscular looking boat, and it has that nice mix of sort of semi-displacement performance with thoroughly stylish modern interiors. But I'd be interested to know, if you were in the market for this style of boat, would you go for this, a Sirena 58, or an absolute 58 Navetta? Let me know in the comments below. So there you have it, that is our review of the Azimut Magellano 60. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, it really helps the algorithm. YouTube does all sorts of clever things that mean the video goes far and wide, so please do help us out with that. If you want to watch more Azimut reviews, I tested the 53 in the Solent, so you can watch that if you click up here. And if you'd like to subscribe, which you'd also really appreciate, you can click up here. Thanks again for watching.